Hello! I had a change of plans today, so I decided to make a January wrap-up video. I am ending the month strong, having read 7 books, and I'm really excited to talk about them because they are all so different from each other, so that's going to be really fun to see where I went during my reading month. The first book that I want to talk about is Carnival Fantástico by Angela Montoya. So I've read Angela's work before. I read A Sinner's Isle, A Cruel Thirst, and I know she has a couple of short stories and a few anthologies out, I'm pretty sure. I haven't read those yet, but I do want to get to those because I really enjoy her writing. I plan on writing a review for her book around the start of February on Instagram, so I probably won't go too much into talking about her book today, but I did read this at the start of January. I got this e-arc over on NetGalley, and I am also really lucky and really honored to be part of her street team as well. So in the Discord, we just interact with each other and it's full of fun times. And to get to the actual Carnival Fantástico book, I really enjoyed this book. It was just so fun and magical and like whimsical, but it's also a little bit like dark because the magic that you see just isn't what it seems, and it plays a lot into the darker themes of this book as well. And what I also really loved about her book are the characters. So my favorite character in this book, which I'm going to mention in my Instagram review, is Esmeralda. She is like so freaking stubborn. She was super complex. She has a really intriguing backstory, and that's kind of why I really love her, because you get to see why she is the way that she is and you begin to really sympathize with her, even though sometimes you kind of want to like bash her head in and be like, you don't have to think this way. Not everyone is out to get you. Not everyone is going to leave you at some point. It's okay to open up your heart a little bit. And I just think her characters this time around, I don't know, I felt like I could really relate to them in a lot of different ways. I really loved the whimsy in this book. I loved reading about the different circus performers, the dangers that they're in. There's Aztec lore in it. There's a really fun ostrich in it as well. And there was, I don't know if this would really count as a twist. I feel like I call everything like that a twist, but to me, it was a twist. I really liked the twist at the end of who exactly is behind all of the dangers. And I feel like with that twist, it goes into another really deep conversation about like relationships between one another and what greed and fame can do to people. It was a really fun book. It's going to come out very soon, and I don't have the physical copy on me yet, but I do plan on buying one because it's such a beautiful cover. It's such a fun book, and again, I am just a really big fan of Angela Montoya's work. The next couple of books I'm going to mention are coming from my personal shelves, so they're physical copies. The second book that I read in January is Animal Farm by George Orwell. So as I mentioned, the genres that I read this month are just going to be bouncing back and forth from different genres. So I actually meant to read Animal Farm, I think back in maybe November or so, but I didn't get to it for whatever reason. I think I just ran out of time, and I was like, well, I'll just get to this book at some point because it, as you can see, it's really short. And I am not really sure what to say about this book because I feel like I don't have anything like educational or insightful to say about this book. This was not a book that I read when I was in school. I read like Frankenstein, I read Fahrenheit 451, and like other books that I can't remember right now, but Animal Farm was one that I never read. So I feel like because I'm not in like an educational setting to talk about this book and dissect it really deeply, but I think all that I will say about it is it was just, well, one, it was interesting because when I read Animal Farm, I was like, okay, is it really about animals on a farm? And I feel like when people mention that, there's always someone who's like, it's not really about animals on a farm. So I was like, okay, I'm reading this and it's literally animals on a farm. But no, it is a little bit deeper than that. I guess what I can't say about this book is it was just so wild to me, the amounts of abuse of power in this book. And the whole time that I was reading, I was like racking my brain. I was thinking like, oh my God, you guys, like they are literally gaslighting you so bad right now. I need you to like wake up a little bit. I need you to trust your gut. This isn't right. You think it isn't right. Like say something, do something. But then they would say something or do something and the pigs wouldn't like it. So then they started like, you know, doing that to all of the animals. It was just really wild. I was like, I cannot believe how hard they're gaslighting these animals right now, and I'm getting so frustrated. But that's all I can say about Animal Farm. Again, I know there is a deeper discussion here. I just don't know how to word anything that I would like to say, but that is all that I will say about Animal Farm. I really enjoyed it, and I feel like I really do need to expand a little bit more into all of the classics that I didn't get to reading when I was in like high school. So like Animal Farm, Of Mice and Men. I'm pretty sure I've read Grapes of Wrath, but I can't remember. But I think I just want to go back to like those high school days and like college, university days of reading books that just make you think a little bit more. The third book that I read in January is The Staircase in the Woods by Chuck Wendig. I was so excited to start reading this book because I saw a lot of my Bookstagram friends posting about it and talking about it. It sounds really up my alley because when I read it, like the synopsis, it felt very like liminal spacey, and I'm really into that kind of thing. So I was really excited to make this one of the books to read for January, and I really enjoyed the book. I loved seeing all of the friends, how they started off as friends and how they were in like high school, and then seeing them as adults and how things are very different now. All of the friends are very different now. All of them have very different lifestyles, very different beliefs as well, and just seeing how they're trying to go back to the way things were back when they were in high school, but they know that they can't, so things are just really tense because some of the friends want to like get back to that old camaraderie that they had, but then other friends are a little bit more hesitant on that front. So I really loved seeing that tension between everyone. The vibe was also just so creepy because, again, finding a staircase in the woods is of itself just really creepy. I'm sure if I found staircase in the woods where I live, I would also be really freaked out. So I really loved the tone that the author set with this plot. In the back too, with the acknowledgements, the author said it's a really real phenomenon, and I went on like a mini rabbit hole with this. I know that it's like a Reddit like legend or whatever it's called. That was also really cool to have something relate to it in real life too. And just looking at the pictures, it's kind of like the pictures that I saw, that's exactly like the vibes I was getting from those is exactly how I would picture the one in the story. Now I will say I really did enjoy The Staircase in the Woods. There was just one part where I feel like it kind of took me out of like the creepy liminal space mysterious kind of vibes that I was getting. And I don't want to say exactly what it is, but what I will say is at some point they go up the stairs, and I won't say where it leads them to, but two characters refer to the space that they're in a certain way. And I understand why they did, considering the background of these characters. I wasn't getting the vibes that they were getting, so I feel like every time they mentioned, oh, this place is just like this, I feel like it was just kind of taking me out of like the mysterious vibes and like the creepy liminal space vibes that I was getting from this book. I feel like that could have been taken out so easily, and I feel like I would have absolutely loved this book. But I mean, that's okay. Again, like I mentioned, the two characters that describe the area that they're in, the way that they do, it makes sense, and I see why the author went that way. So with this next book, I've had it since early 2022 because I worked at a bookstore. One of the perks about working at the bookstore was getting free books, free ARCs, so that way we can know what the customers were liking at the moment or what customers would be reading at the moment, and that is Cover Story by Susan Rigetti. So I read this book because I thought it sounded really fun, and I made a Bookstagram post about this not too long ago. I'll put it here. And it's very much like The Devil Wears Prada with an FBI twist. And I'm not going to go on too much about this book because I already made such a long Bookstagram post about it. But this one I enjoyed, but it just wasn't like the best book of the month for me. I feel like the book started off really strong and mysterious, but I feel like a little bit after like the halfway mark, it just started to lose its way. I feel like it was like wanting to go into so many different directions, but it couldn't pick which direction it wanted to go to. So I feel like there's things that are just missing. There were definitely characters in here that should have definitely been a larger part in this story, but then it was like they were just dropped out of nowhere and they were never mentioned again. I really enjoyed the mixed media that was in this book. It was like articles, Instagram posts, FBI reports, or whatever those are called. So I liked a lot of those things, but there were some mixed media, mainly like the Instagram post, that I feel like just weren't really necessary. The Instagram posts that were on here were from characters where like they were important for like one little portion of the book and then they never showed up again. So that's why I kind of feel like it wasn't really needed. And then there's a take that the main character has in here. The main character, her name is Laura. And I mentioned this on my post. She says like the things we do for self-care are less fancy versions of the things rich people do for self-care. And some of the things were like, I've concluded that I just don't like the reasons that she gives because I think they just make absolutely no sense. One of the things that she mentioned, which again I mentioned in my post, is how regular people, like broke freaking people like Laura, go to Sephora for expensive skincare, while rich people have like estheticians to do like their facials. I don't understand why the author put quotes around expensive, because Sephora has really expensive makeup, expensive hair care, expensive skin care. So I have no idea what the quotes are even indicating in that moment. And then there's another one about how like regular people, broke ass people like Laura and me, we get like food subscription kits like Blue Apron or whatever, while rich people get like food service. Even if I have extra money, I'm not spending that extra money on like food services. I'm going to like a restaurant and having that be like my food splurge with money for that month. So I don't know why she thinks having a subscription box of like food is like a really good example of self-care. I understand that maybe she's saying our version of self-care may be like a little bit more luxurious and out of the everyday routine, but rich people like take it a step further. But so I'm sure maybe that's what she means, but I'm gonna decide to just think those reasons make no sense, and I feel like that's one of the things that you can't change my mind on. So yeah, those are my opinions about this book. It really was fun during the first half. I loved seeing her work at her internship at Elle magazine because I have a similar experience to that, so I totally understand her excitement and her need to like do really well so that way she gets noticed and taken on as like full time. I really related to her struggles with school, but struggling with school and then being scared to tell her parents. I really related to that. And then again, just halfway through the book, or more than halfway through the book, I feel like it just lost its way. That's okay. I'm glad I read it, but it definitely wasn't like the star of the month. So I read 4 physical books in January, and this is the last of the 4. I read Pumpkin Spice and Poltergeist by Allie K. Mulford and K.L. Morrison. So I got this copy at the Sinners and Stardust event in Boston back in August 2025, and I saw this on the table and I thought it looked really cool. I thought it sounded really cool, and I really love my copy because the title, if you can see, it has a shimmery title and the edges are really colorful with the leaves. And I really like is the pages are orange, so that's really cool and different. And I like that with each chapter there's a little picture, like chapter 3 has that little bat, chapter 2 has a cute little mug of like a pumpkin spice latte with whipped cream, chapter 1 has a black cat, and every chapter has a little picture like that, and I really like it. I think it's cute. I think it's really fun to look at, so it's little things like that that really make me love this copy. And just to read the back for this one, the last thing apothecary witch Jordan had on her mind was romance. But when she got witchy wasted, she cracked open the coffin of her love life and conjured the ghost of her ex-girlfriend. Jordan is in for a spell of trouble now that the snarky specter is determined to haunt her until she finds someone new. Enter Harlow, the new girl in town, who just wants a job in her sister's cafe, but she discovers that the spooky town of Maple Hollow is more than just a gimmick. Real magic lives here. But after run-ins with vampires and one too many grave cafe blunders, she's ready to hop on a broomstick and fly out of town, until she finds herself falling under the spell of the enchanting witch who asks her on a date. As sparks fly and cauldrons bubble, will this unlikely pair brew up a love potion that defies the ghostly odds? Or will Jordan's spectral ex be the ultimate buzzkill to their budding romance? So I thought this was a really cute romance book. It was honestly just super cozy. Something I enjoyed about this book, but I wish was expanded on just a little bit, was the sister relationship between Harlow and her oldest sister, Willow. I feel like there were times where they definitely could have communicated better. about some of the blunders that Harlow made while working at the cafe, but I'm going to hold my judgment on that because I know this book has 3 books to this series, and the last book is Willow's POV, so I'm hoping that when we get to her book, there will be a little bit more of that communication between the two. I love the romance in here because you see Jordan trying so hard to move on so that way her ex Lou can move on in the afterlife. So it was I thought it was an interesting conversation about grief and moving on after your partner has passed. Albeit they were already broken up when Lou died, but that still really hit home for Jordan, and I can really see and I really felt the struggle that she was going through in order to move on when she still had like conflicting feelings about her ex. Something I don't know why it wasn't included in the back, I'm not mad about it, I just don't know why, is it actually also has a mystery to it. So it was a really fun mystery. I thought it definitely made sense for the characters and where the story was going to go. I just don't know why it wasn't on the back. I was a little bit confused at first because when it started, I was like, oh, okay, like now we have a mystery going on top of a romance, on top of like the fall vibes, on top of like the magic that's going on. So that was a really cool addition. And I think just with all of those things, that's what made it like a really nice and cozy book for January. One thing I am sad though about my copy, and I don't know if like I just got like a funky one or something, but some of the binding in here, it's like, I don't know if I held my book too harshly or something, but with this book, I'm usually really careful because I want to keep everything nice and intact. But some of the binding is just like coming apart a lot, like on that page that you see, so that's kind of disappointing. I feel like I should have just gotten like the Kindle version of this book so that way the physical copy can stay more pristine, but I guess I couldn't have known that. I didn't know the binding was going to be that way. And then another thing about my copy that's really weird is like the formatting. It didn't like detract from the story, I just don't know why my copy is like this. So you see the story, you see chapter 31, and obviously this is chapter 30, so like the chapters follow page after page for one another. But then we get here, 31 just ends like on this side, and then there's just this blank page, and then it continues on to chapter 32. So that's a little weird. Don't know why mine is like that. I'm gonna be really careful with this because I can see some of the binding right there is like separating. So I don't know, maybe that's on me. I should have just read like an ebook version of this so that way this could stay more pristine, but it's not like it's falling apart, so I'm not too mad about it, but I'm just definitely gonna have to be careful with this. So the last 2 books that I read this month are very, very interesting. So the next book that I read it on my Kindle, is called The Cucuy of Cancun by V. Castro. I really enjoy her work. I've read Immortal Pleasures by her, loved it. I've read Goddess of Filth by her, absolutely loved it. So I read this short story by her. It went by really quick. I think it's only like 11 pages or so, or at least that's what it told me on my Kindle. It was so fast paced. It was really gory, which is, you know, kind of a staple for her. As it's really short, you get to the meat of the character really fast. You understand her deal really fast. And I don't know if this is a short story that is included in her Pink Agave Motel anthology book, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, I just looked it up and I was kind of right. It's the Pink Agave Motel and Other Stories, and it's a collection of stories. At the end of the Cucuy of Cancun, it mentions the Pink Agave Motel, so I don't know if this is a story in that collection or if it goes on longer, but just to talk about the Cucuy of Cancun, it was a really short book. It was really fast paced. You get to know everyone pretty quickly. It's gory. It has wonderful themes about like colonization, women's bodies, and other amazing themes like that are always pretty present in her book. So that is one of the second to last books that I read in January. Okay, so the last book that I read in January, it was actually an audiobook. I don't consume audiobooks at all. I find them pretty hard to get into because I feel like in the times that I tried to read theme music by T. Marie Vanderly because I read the book and I loved it, so I thought maybe I would have an easier time with the audiobook, especially because my husband loves audiobooks. We tried to listen to that together, but I was getting so distracted all the time, so I just don't usually try audiobooks for that reason. But for this next book, my friend told me about it, and I just wanted to read it, I guess, because of how out there it was. I'm stalling because so the last book that I read in January, and my very first audiobook ever, is Cold Sweat by Vera Valentine. And what I didn't know until after the audiobook ended was that she was the one who wrote Unhinged, the sentient door romance. And with Cold Sweat, it's basically a stepbrother, stepsister romance where the stepbrother is the Kool-Aid man. And what I have to say about this book is it was definitely an experience. And I mean, there's more to it. Like, the main character, Jules, and her stepbrother, Red. Jules is wanting to drop out of college, so she's back home with her mom and her stepdad and her stepbrother. So she's going through stuff at the moment because that's going on. And at the beginning, her relationship with her stepbrother was kind of weird because he would always in her eyes, he would always antagonize her. So she thought they weren't really close, but then they start to get closer in like a sauna that her stepdad built for her mom. And it is a smut book, so as you can imagine, step siblings, sauna, romance. Okay. I'm not really sure what to say about this book. I just feel so stunned when I think about this book. I didn't think I was going to try it as an audiobook either, let alone read it by itself. And the thing about me is I am still getting into like different romances and also different dark romances. And there's definitely a lot of tropes that I say that I'm not into. I haven't tried. Well, I guess until now, like I definitely am not into like the step sibling trope. And after reading Cold Sweat, I don't know if that's changed. It was just interesting because this book was so new to me for different things. It was an audiobook, it was a step sibling book, it was a sentient object book. So there's just like so much going on already with this book that I don't know how to feel. All I know is that it was definitely an experience. It was fun because I would update my friend every so often, like, what is this? What am I reading? He called her his little what? Excuse me? They did what? Like, it was a lot going on. So I don't know if my feelings on like the step sibling trope have changed. There was a lot going on. I feel like I just finished it yesterday. I feel like I have had little to no time to process anything. But that is not only my very first audiobook, but that is also the last book that I read for January 2026. I don't anticipate reading anything else for the month of January, or if I do start a new book, I definitely don't think I'm going to finish it within the month of January because it is already Wednesday, January 28th, I believe. So I don't think I'll get through anything that fast. Today I definitely don't feel like I'm in a reading mood, to be honest. I think I just wanted to do this and to do other things to pass the day because, again, my day opened up unexpectedly this morning, so here we are. So this month definitely had a lot of fun reading surprises, I guess you can say. It was fun nonetheless. Reflecting on everything right now, it's actually like kind of funny. I guess that's it for now. February is going to be a wild card in terms of how much I can even read, and I guess what I'm going to be reading, because I didn't think I was going to be reading Cold Sweat this month. So I guess we will see what February will bring. I just wanted to talk about everything that I had read for the first month of 2026. I would love to know how your reading is going for January, what your favorite book of the month was. I think that's all I wanted to share today. So thank you so much for listening to me, and I hope that I see you next time.